Boyfriend betrayal. Okay, so let's go back to where it all started. 1996. Wes Craven drops Scream, and right from the opening scene, Drew Barrymore getting murdered in her own kitchen. The whole movie is basically daring you to figure out who's doing this, and the suspect the film keeps shoving in your face is Billy Loomis, Sydney's dark and brooding boyfriend, played by Skeet Ulrich. He's shifty. He shows up in weird places. He gets arrested because Sydney finds him in her bedroom holding a phone right after she gets a threatening call. It's so obvious that you actually start to think, okay, it can't be him. That's too easy. Craven knows exactly what he's doing to you, so your brain starts wandering. Randy's a horror nerd obsessed with Sydney. Stu's throwing the party where half the murders happen. Sydney's dad disappears at the worst possible time. Then comes the finale at Stu's house. Billy walks in with a stab wound. Playing hero, it's him. It was always him. And standing right next to him, completely unraveling, is Stu Macher, the goofy, loud best friend who was right there the entire time. Billy killed Sydney's mother because her affair with his dad drove his own mother out of the family. Stu helped because, and this is Matthew Lillard's greatest moment on film, peer pressure. He says it with this deranged grin that tells you Stu has fully lost the plot. What Craven pulled off here is something really specific. He made Billy so suspicious that your own genre instincts told you to rule him out. He weaponized the audience's knowledge of horror tropes against them. The obvious suspect, it turned out, was obvious for a reason. And the thing about Stu that people don't talk about enough, he's not just a surprise. He's a tragedy played as farce. Lillard takes a character who could have been a one-note punchline and turns him into someone genuinely unhinged by the end. Billy ran the show. Stu was always the expendable half of the duo, and some part of him probably knew it. The original Scream has two killers, but really only one architect, and that distinction becomes the blueprint the whole franchise follows from here. Mother's revenge. Here's the thing about Scream 2. It's actually doing something smarter than people give it credit for. Sydney's at Windsor College now, trying to put Woodsboro behind her. New life, new friends, new boyfriend Derek, and almost immediately people start dying again. The copycat Ghostface is picking off people connected to Sydney, and the film gives you a very obvious candidate. Mickey Altieri, played by Timothy Oliphant with that weird manic energy he has. Film obsessed. Creepy smile. He talks about movies the way a person talks about a religion, the kind of guy who, in retrospect, you can totally see doing this. But here's where the sequel earns its keep. Running alongside the main storyline is this persistent, obnoxious reporter named Debbie Salt, played by Laurie Metcalf, who keeps inserting herself into scenes, badgering Gale Weathers, being generally insufferable. She reads like a comedic irritant. The movie treats her like she barely matters, and so do you. Mickey unmasks himself in the auditorium. He kills Derek right in front of Sydney, cold and deliberate, and then announces his motive. He wants to get caught. His plan is to go to trial, blame violent movies for turning him into a killer, and become famous in the process. It's dark, it's theatrical, and it's very Mickey. But then Debbie Salt walks in, shoots Mickey, and takes off the act entirely. She's Nancy Loomis, Billy's mother, and she's been running this whole operation from the sidelines while Mickey did the messy work. She killed Randy Meeks herself personally because he badmouthed her son. She has been in this movie the whole time, and you never once looked at her seriously. The double layer is what makes this one brilliant. Mickey is the decoy reveal. Loud, showy, gives you just enough satisfaction that you stop bracing for the second punch. And then Nancy walks through the door and the floor shifts under you. If you're enjoying these videos, subscribe now. It helps me make more of these videos. Anyways, Puppet Master. Scream 3 is the divisive one. People go back and forth on it. But the actual Ghostface reveal in this film is genuinely one of the franchise's boldest moves, and it doesn't get enough credit. So the setup is this. Sydney is in hiding, living off the grid under a fake name. Meanwhile, in Hollywood, someone is murdering the cast of Stab 3, the fictional slasher film built from the Woodsboro murders. The director of that film is Roman Bridger, played by Scott Foley. He's arrogant, he's territorial, he makes enemies on set every day. And then at his birthday party, Ghostface apparently kills him. Craven hides the killer this time, not through a twist on character suspicion, but through a technical trick. The Ghostface voice modulator in this film can impersonate anyone. Roman used it to speak as Cotton Weary, as other cast members, to send people in entirely wrong directions. Nobody heard his real voice under the mask, and because the audience accepted his death as clean and final, he was simply gone from the board. When Roman steps out of the shadows very much alive, there's this beat where it takes a second to even register what you're looking at. He faked the death, eliminated himself as a suspect. He'd been Ghostface the whole time, working alone, the only killer in the entire franchise who did every single murder himself, with no sidekick, no accomplice, nobody to share the work or the blame. And then he tells Sydney who he is. He's her half-brother. Maureen Prescott was assaulted years before she became a mother. and Roman was the result. He found her. She turned him away. So he found Billy Loomis, handed him the evidence of his father's affair, and coached him into committing the murders that started everything. Roman is the reason the first movie happened. He built this entire franchise from a rejection at a door and a decade of festering rage. That's not just a Ghostface reveal, that's a mythology rewrite, and it's worth sitting with the specific choice Craven made here. Roman is the only Ghostface in 6 films who worked entirely alone. He built the whole thing in his head over years, executed it without a single moment of deviation, and nearly got away with it completely. Fame Psycho. You have to understand what Scream 4 is doing with Jill Roberts to appreciate how good the reveal actually is. Emma Roberts plays her as Sydney's teenage cousin. Sweet, sympathetic, a little sad. She's the character you instinctively want to protect. The film surrounds her with obviously suspicious people. Charlie Walker, the film club president played by Rory Culkin, who is so visibly weird and so openly obsessive about horror movies that he practically has killer written on his forehead. There's also Jill's ex-boyfriend Trevor, who keeps appearing at the worst possible moments and becomes the film's designated fall guy. The genius is that casting Emma Roberts and framing her as a protagonist makes the idea of her as the killer feel almost mean to consider. Your brain protects her from suspicion out of narrative sympathy. While you're watching Charlie, Jill is manufacturing grief in real time, crying on cue, leaning into Sydney, performing victimhood with complete precision. Charlie unmasks first and delivers this whole speech about wanting to be the new Randy, the film nerd who survives, the one who gets to live and be remembered. And then Jill stabs him through the heart without blinking. Just like that, her accomplice is gone. She steps forward and explains herself. She orchestrated the entire massacre to become famous. She wanted Sydney's story, the survivor, the hero, the icon, and she was willing to kill her own mother to get it. The exact line she delivers is, "Sick is the new sane." And the way Emma Roberts says it is genuinely chilling because there's not a flicker of doubt anywhere in it. Jill is the first Ghostface in the franchise with no damage in her backstory. Nothing broke her. She just decided she deserved the brand, did the math, and started killing. Released in 2011, right as social media was reshaping what fame meant, it's honestly one of the sharpest pieces of horror commentary the series ever produced. Forum killers. Right, so Scream 2022 is playing a very specific game with you from minute one. It introduces Sam Carpenter, who finds out early on that she's Billy Loomis's illegitimate daughter, which means the movie is essentially putting its hand on your shoulder and going, "Hey, watch this one." She has the bloodline. She hallucinates Billy in mirrors. She's clearly the psychological heir to the killer's chair, and hovering around Sam the whole film is her boyfriend, Richie Kirsch, played by Jack Quaid. He is so disarmingly normal, warm, a little dorky, devoted to Sam in this way that reads as completely genuine. The movie openly tells you the rules. Mindy Meeks Martin sits everyone down and explains the mechanics of a requel, including never trust the love interest. You hear it, you nod, and then you watch Richie being so sweet and so present that the warning just evaporates. The reveal comes at Stu Macher's old house, and it hits hard precisely because Richie was so good at being the safe person. He unmasks and stabs Sam, and you feel it like a physical thing. Not because it's shocking exactly, but because you'd let your guard down around him the same way Sam had. Simultaneously, Amber Freeman, Tara's best friend, never once feeling like a real suspect, walks up to Liv McKenzie and shoots her in the face. Not in costume, not as Ghostface, just as herself, in a room full of people, completely calm. Their motive? They met on a Stab fan forum. They decided the franchise had creatively lost its way. They planned to manufacture a real-world massacre that would force Hollywood to make a better sequel. They murdered people for screenplay notes. It's the most internet poison motive in horror history, and it works because it doesn't feel exaggerated. It feels like something that could absolutely happen in 2022. There's also something specifically cruel about how Richie uses the meta rules against Sam. He knows she's going to be looking for a Ghostface with a motive connected to the original legacy. He knows she'll distrust herself before she distrusts him. He uses her psychology, her fear that she could be her father's daughter, as a shield. The entire time he's holding her hand and whispering reassurances, he's also engineering the exact scenario that puts a knife in her stomach. Richie isn't just a killer. He's a manipulation machine with a great cover story, and the reveal stings as much as it does because you realize every moment of warmth was calculated. Family bloodbath. Scream 6 has the most complicated unmasking in the whole franchise, and what makes it land is that it hides its killers in the most mundane possible places. Authority, friendship, and someone you already watched die. Detective Wayne Bailey shows up as the lead investigator on the new New York killings, and he carries that immediate, steady presence of someone who has things under control. He even steers suspicion directly at Sam, using her connection to Billy Loomis and her mental health history as leverage. She's the dangerous one, he keeps implying. Keep your eye on her. And because he's a detective with a badge and a caseload, you believe him. His daughter Quinn joins Sam and Tara's friend group and then gets brutally murdered in her apartment maybe 30 minutes into the film. It's a graphic, convincing death. The film moves on. Quinn is gone, except she isn't. She faked the whole thing. Unmasking used her apparent death to exit the suspect pool and has been killing freely ever since, with nobody looking at her because she's already dead. Then there's Ethan Landry, Tara's new college roommate. Bland, awkward, fine. Mindy keeps saying she thinks he's one of the killers, and because she says it so many times, it starts to feel like the movie is over-telegraphing a fake clue. You stop taking it seriously. It's obviously a misdirect. It isn't. The three of them reveal themselves in an abandoned movie theater. Richie's private Ghostface shrine, lined with every mask and prop from all the previous films. And the motive is the simplest one the franchise has ever offered. Wayne Bailey is Richie Kirsch's father. Quinn and Ethan are his siblings. They built a coordinated multi-person killing operation across New York City because their brother and son died, and someone had to be held responsible. After 6 films of meta-commentary and genre deconstruction, Scream 6 strips the mask off and finds something completely human underneath it. Grief. That's it. The scariest Ghostface of the franchise is just a father who lost his kid. Disposable Ghostface. This one's quick, but it has to be in here because it's the strangest, most audacious cold open the franchise has ever pulled off. Scream 6 opens exactly the way you expect. Dark alley, lone woman, creepy phone call. Samara Weaving is playing the target, a film studies professor named Laura Crane, and her casting alone is designed to make you think, this is the Drew Barrymore moment of the new film. High-profile actress, isolated setting, ominous opener. We've done this dance. We know the steps, except the sequence starts to tilt. For a second, the film dangles the idea that this cold open is going to subvert everything, and Laura is going to survive. Then she gets stabbed anyway, and the hope collapses. Genre gravity wins. Fine, moving on. Then the killer pulls off the mask on a lit New York street. In public, in the open, and it's Jason Carvey, a college student played by Tony Revolori. He killed his film professor because she gave him a bad grade. He and his roommate Greg had a whole plan to continue the Ghostface legacy and finish what Richie Kirsch started. Jason is so pleased with himself. And then the real Ghostface calls him, lures him home, and he opens his refrigerator to find Greg in pieces. The whole sequence is Scream 6 making a statement about what the franchise has become. The mask is available to anyone now. Any college kid with a grudge and a Ghostface costume from a Halloween store. Jason got to be a killer for about 12 minutes before a more serious killer swatted him away like a fly. The unmasking didn't end a mystery. It opened one. And that reorientation of everything you thought you knew about how a Scream film works is exactly what this entry was designed to do. 15 killers, 6 films, 1 mask, and every single time it comes off you realize the horror was never really about the costume. It was always about the person underneath it and how ordinary the damage that made them was. Thanks for sticking around till the end. I'll see you in the next one.